Hey everybody, welcome back to another very important video. And this is a video where I get a little bit personal with you and I share a lot of views that are very important to me personally. And this is going to be where I talk about nonviolence. And I'll tell you why I'm talking about this, just because, in the past few years, I've just seen a lot of headlines and things and just various news stories that have concerned me greatly, to put it mildly. I've seen a lot of things that I don't like. And I think now in the year 2020 is as good a time as any to sort of open up the discussion about nonviolence. I've always admired people who are able to solve issues without violence. In my opinion, that's very difficult to do, to be presented with a problem and be able to solve it without, essentially causing any carnage or destruction. I mean, to me, that takes a lot of bravery. We don't talk a lot about this man, but we all know the name of Gandhi, right? And we all make jokes about him at times just because, he's so well known. But very few people actually know his story, is that they don't realize at the time Gandhi lived, it was not a good time to be in the nation of India. India was under a British imperial rule. And the real truth is, the British really had no right to be down there. And a lot of the Indians felt that way. They wanted to be their own free, independent country, and they decided now is the time. And at first they tried to deal with Britain, and Britain essentially said no, they couldn't buy their freedom. They attempted to do it politically, diplomatically. And a lot of at the time, the Indians began to grow very restless. They were like, okay, we want our freedom. Are you going to give it to us? We'll pay for it, but... And so a lot of Indian militancy groups rose up, and there was a lot of chaos going in that country. In steps a man like Gandhi. Now, the way Gandhi saw it is he didn't think it was right to use guns or bombs to solve issues. Even the preachers, India didn't really have preachers. They had Hinduism at the time. Unfortunately, I regret to say they still do. But the Swamis, the peace and love Swamis were even saying, hey, we need a bomb now to defend ourselves. And Gandhi steps in and he says, I don't think that's right. And he really became a voice for India. He was very important to them. He said, listen, we can protest. We can say that we don't like this British imperial rule, but we don't have to blow things up. We can make our voice heard, but you do not have to use violence, He would simply just sit on beaches, and where the British said, yeah, that's our beach. We don't really think you should be there. And he just simply sit very peacefully and say, listen, I would like to talk to you. I want to speak. Let's discuss our problems. And of course, my favorite quote by Gandhi is where he said, an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. And he sort of summed it up. All these militancy groups said, listen to me, we've all been wronged in some way. And if we just try to repay wrong for wrong, we'd all be dead. We're all indebted to each other in one way or another. So I think he's a very important example. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that he was fighting for British independence without firing a single bullet. And ultimately, he paid for that with his life. As in a tragic irony, a Hindu militant ended up shooting him publicly. But through his death, that actually opened up the way for India to become their own nation. Finally, the British people started listening, and now India is their own independent nation. They're prosperous. We don't talk a lot about that anymore. Nobody makes movies about that. Nobody discusses him. Or, here's a more recent example that I've always really admired is Desmond Tutu. Nobody knows that he actually grew up down in Africa. He was a part of a tribal region. And the reason his last name is Tutu is because he was part of the the traditional tribes there were the Tutus. And they were engaged in a blood war with another African tribe. And this is the world that Desmond Tutu grew up in. And it was bad. I mean, the way he described it, people were constantly dying. Every day was like a war for him. And he managed to negotiate and stop a war that had been going on for centuries. I mean, can you believe that? I mean, it was way worse than the Hatfields and McCoys. And without firing a single bullet, without taking a single life, he managed to end that conflict. And I have a lot of admiration for the fact he did that. And to me, that takes a lot of bravery, I mean, courage, to walk out in the middle of a battlefield and try to negotiate something knowing you could be shot and you're defenseless. So I just think we need to think about examples like Gandhi and Desmond Tutu. And I want to put a disclaimer. I don't agree with everything they ever said in their lives. I just like that example is what I'm trying to say. And I'm saying we don't talk a lot about that. It sort of bothers me a little bit, to see the UFC glorified in the way it does. And look, I'm being a little hypocritical here. I actually sort of like it a little bit, but I don't like seeing men like Conor McGregor, put up on the front stage and treated like a celebrity. Because let's face it, he does a lot of things that really, if the ordinary person did, they'd be jailed. Let's just put it that way. I don't like seeing violence glorified in a lot of our media and music today. You know what I'm saying? Violence for the sake of violence. So, obviously there's a time and a place for self-defense, but I just think now, in a time like today, in the climate we live in today, we really need to go back over our history and talk about these ways where real problems were presented, like Gandhi and Desmond Tutu had, and explore nonviolent ways of dealing with them like they did, and discuss how they did it, and discuss of ways forward. Because again, it's just my personal views. I gotta admit, I'm kind of having, I'll be honest with you, I'm having trouble wrapping this up a little bit, summing it up. I'm just saying, again, let's just discuss nonviolence. Let's discuss our history, because this is historical. I think now is a very good time to talk about this, and it's just a very personal video for me. I'm a little emotional right now, but if you have thoughts on that, let me know in the comments. Really, I would like to talk to really anybody about this, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to this. Thank you.